Hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. We're just going to get right into it. Okay. I'm excited about this 7-part series. This episode is going to be part 2. And so, this 7-part series is the foundations for the last 10. The foundations, not just for any old weight loss, especially weight loss that you're feeling restricted, deprived, and just deep in the throes of diet culture and all of that. That's not what we're doing here. This is weight loss in a way where you are healing your relationship with your body, healing your relationship with food. And so, this is a series that you don't want to miss. And I'm walking you through these 7 steps. And so, if you want to lose weight this summer and you also want to heal while doing that, you've got to join me for this entire series. Now, last week I talked about step 1. It was episode 1. And I talked about deciding your goal, really deciding your goal on purpose, which is a step that a lot of people skip through. So if you didn't hear that episode, go back and take a listen because that's going to lay the foundation for everything else. But today I am talking about step 2, which is deciding how you'll eat. That is step 2, deciding how you'll eat. Step 1, deciding your goal. And you got to listen to last week's episode to check that out. Step 2, deciding how you will eat. Now, you know that I have over 400 episodes of this podcast, and in many of them, especially in the recent years, I dive into high-level strategy, mindset shifts. And in this series, I want you to know we're taking everything back to foundations. But like I said, not just the foundations of any old kind of weight loss created through dieting, deprivation, and restrictions. Nope. The foundations for the last 10. And the last 10 it's where we redefine weight loss for the woman that wants results and healing. Yes, you want to lose weight. You might want to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 40 pounds, but you also want to heal this area of your life. As women, we are smart. And our generation understands. We see it because we've lived it. We understand the harm and the damage that has been caused by diet culture and endless dieting and sabotaging and not trusting yourself, not trusting your body. And so we know that it is time for something different. And please hear me when I say that you have always deserved better. And so in this foundation series, in this TL10 101 series, I'm walking you through step by step the 7 essential steps to lose weight and create freedom from struggling with weight and food in a way that actually lasts and honestly uplevels your life. Here's my recommendation for how to listen to the series so that you're going to get the most for your own journey, for your own transformation. I'm going to recommend that you have a notebook or a piece of paper ready. For each of these 7 episodes, I'm going to recommend that you take notes and actually write down your decisions, because if you really go through this with me step by step, you are going to end up with a map, and these will be your steps. And so this will be following this map, following these 7 steps, how you can lose weight, the weight that you desire, your goal, and heal this part of your life. And I am walking you through it. Okay, like I said, last week I walked you through step 1, deciding your goal. And today I'm talking about step 2, deciding how you'll eat. And so right from the get-go, this is not about tracking, restricting, or copying someone else's plan. It really is about building your own feel-good formula. I'm going to walk you through that. But before I do that, before I walk you through doing this, it's really important to address what has been the problem with how we've been taught this, how we've been taught to eat, how we've been taught to lose weight, because it's created a problem for so many. And so it's important to address it, to really talk about, okay, here's why we're not doing that, which is what most women know. The problem with how we've been taught to eat is that most of us as women, we've been taught to outsource our food decisions, to outsource our food decisions to diet plans, to a list of do's and don'ts to copying what a certain XYZ other influencer or celebrity is doing. Essentially, I mean, I'm listing some examples, and it's not to vilify any of those examples, but really the most problematic thing here that I'm naming is that as women, we have been taught and told to outsource our food decisions, whether it's a diet plan or this list or that list is not the most important part. The most important part is that, and the most problematic part at the heart of it is that we have been taught as women to outsource our food decisions. The other thing is that when it comes to food for women, this area feels either like very rigid, like we need to follow XYZ rule, or it feels completely chaotic. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do. I don't even know if my body's hungry. I don't even know if I'm supposed to eat right now or if I had too much, and then judging ourselves after. So the self-judgment. And so there's this outsourcing of food decisions. And there's also this disconnection where it feels like you don't know, like you don't have what's needed to understand or to make a decision or to know what you need. And then the self-judgment and the self-criticism after, of course. What most women are experiencing is either rigidity and outsourcing of the food decisions, or like this lack of clarity and confusion and disconnection with self and body. But either way, whether you identify with any of what I just described, whether you identify more with one versus the other, or maybe it's a little bit of both, what most women don't experience is agency, meaning I feel like I know what to do. I feel like I know what works for me. And then I go ahead and I do that. And I feel like I know what my body needs, what works for my body. And then I go ahead and do that just with total clarity and confidence and trust. That is what most of us as women don't experience. And that right there is actually the solution. Because here's my mic drop moment. Ready? It's coming. You can't feel at peace with food if you are constantly at war with your decisions. Let me say it one more time. You cannot feel at peace with food if you are constantly at war with your own choices. And so we've been taught that we need someone else to tell us what to eat, and that then we follow those rules because, yeah, I guess we're not supposed to be smart enough to, just make decisions. That's what we've been taught. This is what has been the ethos. This is what has been in the water for generations, that we can't be trusted, that we can't trust ourselves, that we can't trust our own bodies, but you can. You are wise. Your body is wise. And this is why in the last 10, which is my signature coaching program, I don't give my clients a list of foods or tell them what to eat or when to eat. My clients instead are guided and supported through the process of deciding how she wants to eat. Because in fact, most of us already have a really, really wealth of insight and knowledge about what works for us and what doesn't. And so if you're honest with yourself, like so many women, at least to some degree, but probably more than you have given yourself credit for, you know a lot already about what feels great, what works for you. And so as I'm working with my clients and then as we're coaching together, and by the way, when you join the last 10, you do have unlimited access to coaching every single week. So you'll be able to address anything getting in the way of eating how you want to eat, in the way that feels good for you. And so there is no rule following. You decide how you want to eat, and you're, of course, guided and supported in that process. But once that's clear and once you've decided, here's how I want to eat based on your body, your needs, your goals, then right, you have unlimited access to coaching every single week to address anything getting in the way of eating how you want to eat. But notice there is no rule following. There is no dieting. And so then, because there's no rule following, because there's no dieting, there also doesn't need to be this feeling restrictive and deprived and then feeling rebellious and then self-sabotaging. And that whole exhausting pattern then can be released. Okay. You might be wondering, Brenda, this all sounds amazing so far, but what exactly does it mean to decide, for me to decide how I'm going to eat? So I'm going to walk you through that right now. Here's what it means to decide how you'll eat. So remember, this is step 2. You've already decided your goal, and I walked you through that step by step in the first episode of this series last week. And now we're talking about number 2, deciding how you'll eat. Most women believe, and this is where so much stuckness happens, that in order to achieve your weight loss goal, especially the quote unquote last pounds, most women believe that you're going to have to be perfect, that you're going to have to eat perfect, quote unquote, and be super strict pretty much for the rest of your life in order to achieve that goal. And of course, even by me describing it that way, you can probably start to see why it doesn't work. That is a lot of pressure. That is a lot of perfectionism. That creates a lot of intense emotions around food decisions and your body and your weight. And that's exactly why it doesn't work. It's exactly why it doesn't work. At least not for the vast majority of us. At least most certainly, it didn't work for me. And for hundreds of my clients that have now gone through the last 10, it just doesn't work for the vast majority of us. Like I said, that approach most certainly never worked for me. It only kept me miserable, sabotaging, and gaining and losing weight for what felt like an eternity. I mean, it was 2 decades. That's a lot of time. That is 20 years of my life, but it felt longer than that. It felt like an eternity. It felt miserable. And so I want you to know that this isn't about perfection. And it also isn't like you're creating a list of rules even for yourself. Okay, this is different than that. When you are deciding how you'll eat, here's what it's about. It's about creating a strategy that feels good, that supports your goals and honors your life. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. What it means to decide how you'll eat. It's about custom creating a strategy, really designing, curating a strategy, a food strategy that feels good for you as a one-of-a-kind individual that supports your goals and honors your life. Inside of the last 10, I teach my clients the feel good formula, which is, as I mentioned, completely customized for each person, for each woman. You get to decide, and it's completely customized, how often you want to eat, what kinds of foods feel good in your body, what kinds of foods create results, the results that you desire, what eating patterns work for your lifestyle. How do you want to integrate foods that you love, but that you know that if you eat them all the time, it won't create the results that you want? How do you want to integrate those? What's the frequency? What does that look like? How do you want to feel when you're integrating? For example, if you love ice cream, you don't want to eat it every day, but you do want to be able to enjoy it sometimes. What do you want that to look like? And to be able to enjoy it without then overeating or having it turn into a whole F-it moment or weekend, and without the self-sabotage. When your eating choices are intentional, not reactive, but also not just blindly following something that someone handed down, that is how you take your power back. That is how weight loss is created in a way that actually empowers you even more in your life. I'm going to say that one more time. When your eating choices are intentional, not reactive, and also not just receiving some sort of hand-me-down that was never made for you in the first place, and that doesn't even feel good for you, that is how you take so much of your power back in this area of your life, because you're not following a plan. You're not also giving yourself a bunch more rules and then treating them that way. You are custom designing a way of eating that supports your life, your desires, your vision that you have for your life, the weight loss results that you desire, and of course, freedom. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this. You ready? Grab your paper. You're going to grab your piece of paper. Here's how you're going to do this step by step. Grab your piece of paper and start writing down your formula. Like I said, I mentioned this earlier, inside of the last 10, we call this the feel good formula. Now, a couple of pointers here. Don't make this process too serious or super heavy. I know it is important, so I'm not saying don't make it important. It is important. Doing this work And dedicating this time to have this be intentional and to do it in a way that comes from love and power and agency, it is important. But there's a difference between something being important and we allow it to have its importance. There's a difference between that and having it feel so serious and heavy and like, what if you do it wrong? So just notice if you're feeling any of this serious heaviness, tightness, this like, oh my God, what if I do it wrong? Just literally take a breath. You might even bring your hands to your heart, a little bit of self-holding. This will help to just let your brain know, hey, we're good, we're safe. It's a self-calming practice, taking a nice breath, or you might even shake your body, shake it out. Okay, here we go. What you're aiming for is intentional. And here's what I'm going to offer. Just start with what you know on your paper, in your journal. Start with a blank piece of paper, or maybe you even open up a Google Doc. Just start with what you know. I promise you, there is so much that you already know about what works for you. I promise you, there is so much that you already know about what works for you. For example, okay, let's say you're sitting there, you're staring at your piece of paper, you're feeling a little stuck, maybe even feeling a little frozen, feels a little bit high stakes. Okay. Again, give yourself tons of love and compassion. We can understand why it feels so high stakes because it has felt very high stakes for so many of us for pretty much our entire adult lives. When we're living in a culture and a society that has placed self-worth on whether, how our body looks like or what our body doesn't look like, yeah, it can feel high stakes. And so give yourself so much love and compassion, so much love and compassion. So if you're sitting there, you're staring at your piece of paper, like, okay, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't really know where to start. I'm going to give you some prompts. You've got your paper. Ask yourself these couple of questions and just start writing things down. Let your pen move, let your pen flow. You can make edits later. Okay. You can make edits later. Ask yourself this. Okay. What do I know works for me? What do I know works for me? See, there might be a thing or two that comes to your mind. Write that down. This is how you start. Just get started. Let your pen or pencil start moving. Here's your next prompt. What do I know doesn't work for me? Now, I'll give you an example. I've shared this so many times on the podcast. There was a time, years of my life. This is when I was living in Los Angeles. Before I wasn't even married then. I wasn't even a mom then. I would eat bowls and bowls and bowls and bowls of popcorn every single night. I knew that didn't work for me. Okay, so I would write that on my list. Okay, I know this doesn't work for me. So far, you've got a couple really powerful questions. What do I know works for me? Write down a couple things. Maybe with that prompt, you write down 10 things, but it's okay if it's only one or two. And then the next question that I offered is, what do I know doesn't work for me? And we're keeping these questions somewhat open-ended, very much on purpose, so that you can allow these insights to come up and just get them on your paper. I'll give you some examples. For example, when I ask the question, what does work for me? Here are some of the things that you might write down. And these are just examples. I know that when I don't get enough rest, I start eating late night snacks more. I start snacking in the evening more. I know that when I start getting in more veggies into my lunch or dinner, I start to feel more energized and actually start even feeling like in a better mood. Okay. I know that when I don't eat late night snacks, I lose weight and my skin clears up. And that happens pretty quickly. Happens within a couple of days, within a week or so. Another example. I know that when I don't drink enough water, I crave more snacks and I end up snacking more and also feeling dehydrated. And I'll just give one more example. I know that when I enjoy a drink out with friends, that actually feels good. I enjoy it. I feel fine the next day. I also know that if I have 2 or 3 drinks out with friends, the next morning I have a major headache and I feel like shit pretty much till around middle of the day next day. Do you see? These are just examples, but I would feel pretty confident betting that there are a lot of these kinds of things that you know about your body, about what works for you and what doesn't. And write those things down, get them on the paper, and you'll start to see how much you know of what works for you and what doesn't. And this will be how you start to build your own formula, your own feel good formula. Here's a few important things to keep in mind. Your very first version more than likely won't be your final version, and that is okay. For any of my perfectionists, recovering perfectionists listening, tuning in, and I say that with all the love because it takes one to know one, right? Raising my hand over here. If you feel kind of this like, I need to get it right. I need to get it right. I don't want to mess this up. Am I going to mess this up? Again, take a nice breath, maybe bring your hands to your heart, shake it out. Okay. We can give so much love and compassion to that tension, that pressure. Your first version isn't likely going to be your final version. And why is that? Because we're learning about ourselves. You're learning about yourself. And this is your first time doing this. It's your first time doing this. In fact, I want to even celebrate the fact that you are doing this. I am telling you right now is freaking revolutionary. Okay. The fact that you are grabbing a blank piece of paper and are giving yourself permission to be the authority to decide what works for you and what doesn't, instead of the old way, which is us as women outsourcing these decisions, that is revolutionary. And so even if you write down one line on there, celebrate that because things are already changing and this is already huge. It's already huge. And what I mean by that is you're already changing at the core, at the foundation, how it is that you're approaching this part of your life, this area of your life, and you are going to feel that shift. Okay, so your first version of you writing things down, what works for you, what doesn't, your food formula, your feel good formula, very likely isn't going to be your final version. Not only is that okay, we're going to celebrate whatever you write down on that blank piece of paper because that act in and of itself is revolutionary and you are already changing for yourself. And, this might sound corny. I'm going to say it anyways, even future generations. I totally believe that. For my daughter, for example, that the way that I've transformed this area of my life, there's so much that I rolled up my sleeves to create this change. And she is not learning any of that. At least I am not going to teach it to her. She is watching her mama like I make decisions when it comes, to what I eat, what I don't eat. When I stop eating, I'm listening to my body, I'm being connected with my body, etc. So not only are you revolutionizing, trailblazing, changing, transforming this area of your life for you, I would say thank you because we're doing it, for all of us and generations to come. But as I was also mentioning here, as you continue approaching your weight loss in this new way, you will continue to learn about yourself and your body. And by the way, right, we are always changing. We are always changing. And so it's not about getting it perfect and getting, the final version out at your very first try. It's about clarity and it's about intentionality. When you now start to make decisions from clarity and intentionality, celebrate that. And I want you to know that the results that you then start to see from clarity and intentionality versus rule following and versus outsourcing your food decisions, they're going to feel so much different. Decisions will feel so much different. And because of that, your results that you experience are also able to be so different. Specifically, they're able to be so much more effective and lasting because of it. And so all of that to say, you don't need to get it, quote unquote, perfect from day one. Okay. Celebrate whatever it is that you get out on that paper, because you are just going to continue to build and customize and fine tune this for yourself in just powerful, beautiful, loving ways. Now, let's talk about if you are feeling confused, overwhelmed. It's going to be better. This is what I'm going to offer here. It's going to be better to pick something and try it rather than to stay confused, overwhelmed, and just blink. I'm going to give an example in a second. Why is this? Why would I recommend this? Why would I recommend picking something and trying it rather than just not doing anything, staying confused, overwhelmed, and just kind of not moving forward? By doing this, you build even more self trust. It's really saying, hey, okay, I'm not quite sure, but let me try this and I can change it if I want to. And I'm not staying stuck in confusion or overwhelm or perfectionism. And more self-trust is going to come out of that because you can pick something, make a choice, see how that's working, and then make an edit if you need to. Okay, so that's what I'm going to recommend instead of staying paralyzed, stuck, imperfection, worry, or fear of getting it wrong, which naturally leads me to the next question. What if, Brenda, what if there's something that I'm not sure about? For example, what if I'm not sure about dairy? Or what if I'm not sure about artificial sweeteners? If there is anything that you are not sure about, but you are curious about it, test it. And I make that distinction on purpose because there can be something that you might not know, but you're also totally, completely uninterested. I'll use a kind of silly example here. I don't like pickles, so I'm not curious about how does my body respond when I eat pickles every day because I could give a shit. I do not like pickles, so I don't want to be eating pickles. So that's a little bit of a distinction there. If there's something that you're not sure about and you're curious about it, like you do want to know, for example, as I said, if you're not sure about dairy, but you are interested in really knowing, hey, when I eat dairy, how does my body respond? What are the results of that for me? Or the other example I use is the example of artificial sweeteners. If there is anything you're not sure about and curious about, test it. I teach my clients inside of the last 10, I teach my clients a step-by-step process for exactly how to do this. You test something, anything that you desire, you test it, you observe the data, you assess the data, and then you make a decision from an empowered place. You get to really make a decision from a place of love and power and agency. I recommend you give yourself 2 weeks. So for example, let's say you're not totally sure about dairy, meaning you're not quite sure, hey, do I feel better when I have dairy or when I don't have dairy? Or do I feel better when I have certain amounts of dairy, but maybe not every day or maybe not at every meal? If that feels like something you want to gather more data about and have more clear information about that when it comes to your body, your results, then you simply test it. I recommend you give yourself 2 weeks. But of course, like let's say you're testing something and you feel horrible and you don't love the results at all and you're able to see that in 3 days. Well, you don't have to do a full 2 weeks. But it's kind of like when you go to try a new cream or a new skincare product, they usually say, oh, give it about a month to really see how your skin absorbs the product, blah, blah, blah. Of course, after day 1, if you are trying that skincare product and you break out in a rash, you're not going to give yourself the full month. So of course, you're going to use your discernment. But to give yourself 2 weeks, that's the recommendation. And of course, use your discernment along the way. Observe how your body responds. Observe your body's response. You are the boss then. Once you observe for about 2 weeks, but again, like I said, use your best discernment here. You're going to observe how your body responds. Once you observe that, you get to decide what you do with that information. In the case of this example, you might decide to reduce dairy as a part of your formula based on your observations. Or you might decide it didn't make a difference at all and you really enjoy dairy as a part of your meals. And so you're going to incorporate it as part of your feel-good formula because you were able to still see the results you wanted. Your body responded. You took note. You still saw weight loss that week. And that's a part of what you were observing. And so main point here, anything that you're not totally sure about or that you want more information, how does my body respond? Does this create weight loss results for me? If that's a question that you are assessing, simply test it. Test it, observe, and then make a decision. You get to make a decision. You are the boss of what you do with what you've observed, but do not stay feeling stuck or confused. And now you've noticed that I've mentioned a couple times. So that's really important because staying stuck or confused. Staying stuck, it means we're just repeating, we're looping in the same place. Loop, 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 loop. And I've shared this with you so many times. I was looping for 20 years. Okay, so that's why I keep mentioning that. And also, I want to mention this. Also, don't stay feeling ashamed or embarrassed. Now, this might seem here, as I mention it, this might seem a little like unrelated, like, whoa, where did that come from? But it's super important. I have coached hundreds of women. I've been running the last 10 for 9 years now. And this is super important. It all ties back to what I was saying at the very top of this episode. As women, we have been told over and over and over what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat, what we should or shouldn't do with our bodies. And there's also definitely ideas of what healthy, quote unquote, looks like and what self care is supposed to look like. And for us as women who are dedicated to growth and healing, this is really, really important to be aware of. And I'll share an example with you. So, for myself as a woman of color, I remember when I was like in the midst of this, right? Just struggling with my weight and overeating. At one point, I weighed almost 200 pounds. I just felt even uncomfortable in my own body. I wanted to create change for myself. And there was so much emotional eating and sabotaging behaviors and patterns that were happening. And I knew that there was so much I wanted to change for myself. I also remember that anytime that I looked at quote unquote health books, health cookbooks, influencers, I remember all of the foods in the cookbooks, everything, they all looked a certain way. All of the women looked a certain way. Even their homes looked pretty similar certain way. And by the way, that's not a problem. But the problem and the thing that was really important for me to be aware of is because it didn't look like my life, right? It didn't look and didn't reflect or represent at all my cultural experience. And so I really had to unshame so many of my cultural foods and experiences that didn't look like a lot of what the mainstream, quote unquote, health stuff looked like. I had to do a lot of unshaming. This is why I'm mentioning it here. Don't stay feeling stuck in fear or perfectionism. And also don't stay feeling ashamed when you are putting together and really curating and really custom designing for yourself your feel good formula. I had to unshame. And I'm so thankful for myself for having done that. But I really had to unshame so much of what was important to me and really empower myself and give myself total permission and even pride that, hey, this is my healthy. This is what healthy looks like for me. This is what feels good for me. This is my self-care. I had to really reclaim what all of that was for me and really not needing anyone else to co-sign it or approve it. And really giving myself that I didn't need to see my version of self-care or taking care of myself or my body or how it felt good to feed myself or what any of that, really giving myself permission that I didn't need to see my version of that on the cover of Fitness magazine, for example. Because usually on the cover of Fitness magazine, it might be a salad, which again is completely fine. But usually on the cover of Fitness magazine, I wouldn't see a delicious, nutritious bowl of albondigas, for example, which if you're not familiar with albondigas, it's only the most delicious. My mouth is like salivating right now. The most delicious, in my opinion, my humble first gen Mexican American opinion, the most delicious Mexican soup ever. I think some would say maybe it's caldo de pollo, but for me, it's albondigas, hand down. I would never see that on the cover of Fitness magazine. So I had to unshame and really give myself total permission, really empower myself. Hey, this is what my feel good formula looks like for me. Unapologetic. And so all of that to say, anything that is in question for you, that you are curious about for yourself. Hey, does this really work for me or not? Does this really belong on my feel good formula or not? Is this part of what's going to be how I feed my body, how I take care of my body? See how it feels. No judgment. See how it feels, really bringing like this neutral lens to it. Almost imagine as if there was no quote unquote right way, giving yourself really permission to build up something that is being perfectly, beautifully curated for you. See how it feels, see how your body responds, see what the results are, and don't stay stuck in confusion, fear, perfectionism, or shame. What you eat, how you eat, the reasons you eat are up to you and no one else. And now we get to act like it. And it feels so good, not restrictive, not deprived. And because it feels good, because it is completely custom to you, to your liking, to you as a completely one of a kind, unique human, not only is it sustainable, it actually gets to feel good because you chose it for yourself, because you have handpicked this way of eating exactly for you. And so this, my sister, is what it can look like to lose weight from a place of having reclaimed agency in this area of your life, particularly food decisions. And this is what it can look like to lose weight in a way where you actually have more love for yourself, not less, where you actually feel more powerful, not disempowered or miserable or deprived or self-sabotaging. I have seen so many of my clients join the last 10 hoping, because they really just have been so exhausted on their weight journey up to that point, hoping that this kind of transformation really is possible, but also feeling doubtful because for most of us as women, it's what we've known is the diets and the rules and the restriction and the deprivation and the I have to be perfect and I have to eat this way if I want to, blah, 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 blah. It's exhausting. And just feeling hopeful, like, hey, maybe something else could be an approach that works, that doesn't actually feel like shit, right? That doesn't actually feel like I have to sacrifice feeling good or my freedom, or that I have to outsource food decisions and feel restricted and deprived. And just today, actually today, right before I started recording this episode, one of my newest clients was sharing a celebration that she had lost 10 pounds already. And she was in awe of how this is possible without dieting, without feeling like constantly restricted and deprived and all of that. And of course, I've shared my story with you, but it's worth sharing again. When I believed that in order to lose weight, I had to follow a diet, I had to be on a diet, I had to follow a plan, I spent 20 years stuck in cycles of self-sabotage. I would lose a bunch of weight, yes. And then I would gain a bunch of weight. I would lose 30 pounds and then I would gain 20. I would lose 10 pounds and then I would gain 30. It was exhausting, miserable, frustrating. I felt so defeated. I felt flawed. I definitely didn't feel like I could trust myself. I kept outsourcing my decision making. Like I said, I felt defeated and I definitely didn't feel I could trust myself. Once I learned to trust myself, to trust my body, to stay connected with my body, I learned to stay connected with my body. And as a result of that, I stopped overeating. I learned to care for my emotions and be connected with myself and how I feel. And as a result of that, I ended and stopped sabotaging and emotional eating. And there was nothing about that that required rule following. When everything changes, when I realized that nothing was a rule I had to follow, and instead it was empowered decisions that I got to make. So that was one of the biggest shifts, is deciding actually nothing was a rule that I had to follow. There were no rules around food that I had to follow. But instead, It was empowered decisions that I got to make. Everything changed with that shift. I actually enjoy food even more now. And trust me, I enjoy food. And I also love myself and I treat myself like it. And so you don't have to pick. You really are able to experience both, where you transform your relationship with food, and that can create new results that you then are able to experience and experience them in a way that feels beyond sustainable, actually feels good because it's curated for you, it's handpicked by you. And so you're able to experience both that and also loving yourself and treating yourself like it. And this way of making food decisions, it will change your whole damn life. And I cannot wait for you to experience it. And as I mentioned this before, I truly, truly believe, like in my heart of hearts, in every cell of my being, I believe it's what we have always deserved. Okay, so as always, I'm going to give you some journaling prompts and then we're going to wrap up this episode. On your notebook or paper, of course, you're going to start the process of curating, crafting your feel-good formula, your food formula, completely custom to you. And here's also some journaling prompts to pair along with that. So on your paper and your journal, how do I currently eat? And allow yourself to be honest. No judgment, just this very loving, radical self-honesty so you can just really see. How do I currently eat? What do I want to keep? And what do I want to change? So those questions go together. How do I currently eat? What do I want to keep? And what do I want to change? Remember, be honest, but not judgmental, not critical. And here are some bonus prompts. If I trusted myself, how would I eat? If I completely, fully trusted myself, how would I eat? Here's another one. Last bonus question, last bonus prompt for your journaling. What would freedom with food actually look like for me? And so along with those prompts on your paper, start crafting and curating your formula. And of course, if as you're listening to today's episode, which is the second episode of this series, the 7-part series. If you're listening, you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to work with Brenda. I would love to be supported in this process. Come and join me inside the last 10. If you know that you want support, that you want expert support, that you want to be supported at the highest level with this work, come and join me inside the last 10. I would be honored to be your coach and support you in this process. Transforming this area of your life, reclaiming this area of your life in this way literally is priceless. And so this is what we're doing in the last 10. I'm not going to hand you a bunch of more rules for you to feel rebellious about and then restricted and then deprived and then sabotaged 2 weeks later. That's not what we're doing. Instead, you have all the support that you need to design your way of eating in a way that feels good. And then that becomes beyond sustainable. And remember that we are claiming this summer as a summer of freedom. Freedom from struggling with weight and food, freedom from any weight that you want to lose, freedom from limiting beliefs, freedom from worries and fears related to food and weight, freedom from all of that. And so if you want to lose weight this summer and you also want to heal while doing it, heal your relationship with your body, heal your relationship with food, come and join me in the last 10. This is exactly the kind of expert coaching, deep coaching support that you will get inside of the last 10. We've got the mindset. Our coaching is holistic. We've got feminist coaching tools and approach. And this is the mission. It's the mission of the last 10. It is the mission of my work that I do in the world, is that we do this in a way where you are able to be free of the weight struggle. And so you're not just losing weight, you're also healing. Healing from diet culture, limiting beliefs, all of that. So come and join me in the last 10 for the summer of freedom. The last 10 is open now. So just go to brendalomelli.com and then go to the last 10 and you can get yourself enrolled, because this liberation, this freedom from the weight struggle should be for everyone. And this can be the summer. You can claim this as a summer to stop struggling with weight and food, and to create and enjoy this area of your life on purpose. And like I said, I would be honored to support you. So just go to brendalamelli.com, go to the last 10, get yourself enrolled, and you're able to join your first coaching call that very same week. So I cannot wait to see you. I cannot wait to meet you. And I will see you next week for our next episode of this series. Okay, talk to you soon.